Hey everybody, this will be the tutorial video for day 1 of section 10.3. We're going to be looking at adding, subtracting, and multiplying radical expressions. Today we're just going to focus on adding and subtracting them. Before we get started, just want to show you a little bit of make your own math apparel. All this really takes, if you're interested in mathifying your outfit for the day, you just take a little note card, put some math on it, a little bit of tape it up, and look at that, I got a little radical symbol on my outfit for today in the theme of the topic that we're covering. I call it Mioma, make your own math apparel. Okay. Challenge yourself, do it one day during this e-learning experience. It'll make it a little bit more fun. All right, on that note, I'm going to present my screen. I'm going to hide my camera so you can focus on the handout, but you should still be able to hear me so we can talk about all that great math. All right, here we go. All right, so as I said, we're going to split this section into 2 days, and you'll get a practice day for each topic as well. So day 1 of section 10.3 is going to be on adding and subtracting radical expressions, and this section really builds off of 10.2, where we learned how to break down radical expressions. So now we're going to kind of take those concepts and we're going to put them together. So by the end of this specific set of notes, you should be able to add and subtract radical expressions. Doesn't mean you have to be perfect at it by any means, but at least you're kind of get an intro into the topic, and then you can do some of the extra practice problems in order to get better at that. Honestly, adding and subtracting radicals is pretty much like combining like terms. Say I gave you something like 5x plus 3x. This takes us back to the first week of school. We would have said, oh, that's just 8x. 5 dogs plus 3 dogs is 8 dogs. Dogs in this case is x. Literally, I can do the same thing with something like 5 rad 10 plus 3 rad 10. The only difference is instead of calling it 5x, now I'm calling it 5 rad 10. And instead of calling it 3x, now I'm calling it 3 rad 10. The x is like your rad 10. All you do here is you take the outer numbers and you just add them together. I have 5 rad 10s, I add on 3 more rad 10s, and now I have 8 rad 10s. And that's it. Notice this is not 8 rad 20. I did not add the insides of the radicals. I only added the coefficients out front. So I'd put a big box around this and then put a big X through it. If you have a red pen, red is great. And put no. Go back to that office clip if you want to remind yourself, what do I do if you do 8 rad 20? No, no, please, no. And if you're, trying to convince yourself, well, why do I just add the outsides and not the insides? You have 5 rad 10. How many rad 10s is that? That's 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I add on 3 more rad 10s. 1, 2, 3. Count them up. How many do you have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if it helps you to expand it out to see that the first time around, by all means do that. So some examples. You always got to make sure they have the same number under the radical before you add them together. I can't take something like 2x plus 3y and add it together. Same rule. I wouldn't be able to take like 2 rad 2 and add it to 3 rad 3. That would be as simplified as I could make it. So in number 1, I noticed they both have a rad 6. I have 3 rad 6, and then I add 5 more rad 6s. I'm only adding the numbers on the outside. 3 plus 5 would be 8 rad 6. Not 8 rad 12, 8 rad 6. And then we check 6. Does 6 break down more? We've seen this trick before. Rad 2 times rad 3 didn't help me because neither of these breaks down to a perfect square, and these two don't even pair up together. So I just leave it as a rad 6. Same thing with number 2, except we have subtraction. It works the same way. I have 5 rad 7 minus rad 7. I'm just going to put that ninja 1 in there to remind us to subtract 1. Same rad to 7. 5 rad 7, take away 1 rad 7 would be 4 rad 7. So let me highlight the first two so you can see the answer. There's my first one. There's my second one. For the third one, you'll notice this time I have 2 different rads going on. I've got a couple of rad 10s, and then in a different color, I'll do blue, I've got a rad 11. The reds are going to be able to combine together, but the blue is not going to be able to combine. So I'm going to start with the reds. Negative 5 rad 10 plus 4 rad 10 would be negative 1 rad 10. And then I'm going to bring down the minus rad 11. But notice you have different radicals now. So you can't subtract -1 minus 1. So I just drop this Ninja 1. I leave the negative sign. I get negative rad 10 minus rad 11. And that's as far as I can take this one. I can't combine those together because the radicand, meaning the number under the radical, is different. So that's as far as I take this one. They have to have the same number underneath if you combine them together. That's for addition and subtraction. You know, with multiplication that we talked about the other day, I want to clarify. If you have something like rad 2 times rad 3, that is equal to rad 6. But rad 2 plus rad 3 is not equal to, like, rad 5. You can't add those together. So this is a big no-no. This one is fine. This one is a no. All right, I want you to try out number 4, and then I'll circle the answer for you and show you the work for it. So take a few seconds, try that out, pause me, and then I'll show you the answer for that one. Okay, so this one should be A. I notice all of them have a rad 3, so I'm just going to add the coefficients in front. -8 plus 5 is -3, rad 3. Put my Ninja 1 here. -1 rad 3. Still the same ending, so I can just combine the outside numbers. -3 minus 1 would be -4 rad 3. This is just combining like terms. Number 5, give this one a shot. Pause me again, try this one out, and then I will reveal the answer and show you some work for this one. Okay, so this one should be B. Let's take a look at the work for this one. 2 different types of rads going on. I got a couple of rad 6s I'm going to highlight in red, and then I've got something with a rad 7 I'm going to do in blue. And this is more just for me to organize. I'm going to put the red ones together first. I can move the order around because it's addition and subtraction here. And then I'm going to put the -4 rad 7 at the end. So the red ones can combine because they both have a 6 under the house. 7 minus 2 is 5. So that part's 5 rad 6. Bring down the -4 rad 7. I can't combine this any further because this number and this number, the 6 and 7, are not the same rad, and they don't even break down anymore. So that's as far as I can take this one, would be option B. Okay. Now sometimes, though, the numbers at the beginning will be able to be broken down. So just because it doesn't look like it's able to be combined, it actually might be able to be combined after you do a little bit of simplifying. Okay. So here it even mentions, sometimes there are identical radicals that you just can't see because you need to simplify first. It's like wearing a Halloween mask. Once you take off the mask, you say, aha, these are able to be combined. So for example, in number 6, 8 rad 5 plus rad 125. At first glance, I see this one has a rad 5, and this one has a rad 125. Those aren't the same radical. Okay. So if you look at this too quickly, you might say, oh, I'm done simplifying, I'm going to move on. But what do you know about rad 125? That can break down. And this is why we do section 10.2 first, because we have to be able to break down that radical. And once we break that down, maybe we will be able to get a 5 out of it. This is rad 25 times rad 5. But rad 25 is just 5. So rad 125, once it takes off the mask, is really just 5 rad 5. And then I bring down the 8 rad 5 from the beginning and the addition sign. And hey, look at that. Now they do have the same radical. So I can add the coefficients in front. 8 rad 5 plus 5 rad 5. I'm going to add those numbers I circled. That would just be 13 rad 5. So sometimes you got to look at the problem and say, can I break down any of the original radicals? Because maybe when you look at it at first, they don't simplify, but after a little bit of work, they do. Same with number 7. 4 rad 3 minus rad 27. Clearly not the same radical, but break down the rad 27. That's rad 9 times rad 3, which is 3 rad 3, since the rad 9 comes out as a 3. Bring down the 4 rad 3 from up top. Bring down the subtraction from up top, and you've got yourself a pair of like radicals. 4 rad 3 minus 3 rad 3 is 1 rad 3. 1 times rad 3, I don't need the 1 in front, so drop that. That's just rad 3. Number 8, I see 3 different groups. I see an 8, I see an 18, and I see a 2. Clearly not the same number. So I'm going to try and break down any of those that I can. The only one that doesn't break down is the 2. So that one's just going to stay as is. But rad 8, I know is rad 4 times rad 2. This comes out as a 2. So I get 2 rad 2. Make sure you notice from the beginning there was another 2 in front. So that's got to come down, and that's going to multiply by the 2 that I brought out of the house. So that 2 rad 8 simplifies to 4 rad 2. Now I'm going to break down the rad 18. That can be rad 9 times rad 2, which is 3 rad 2. So that comes down. In between was an addition sign, so I'm going to keep that addition sign. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning, that minus 6 rad 2 you can't break down, so just bring it down. Minus 6 rad 2. And hey, look at that. That's a rad 2. That's a rad 2. And that's a rad 2. They're all like radicals, which means I can add together all 3 of these numbers in front that I just outlined in blue. So this is going to simplify to 4 plus 3 is 7. 7 minus 6 is 1. 1 rad 2. Drop the ninja 1. This is just rad 2. So that'll do it for the first page. If you need to pause me and take a look back at any of the work I did before moving on, by all means, go ahead. I'm going to move on to the second page. Okay, so a couple of quick checks, multiple choice. Okay, I would say let's have you try the problem first. Before you even look at the answer options, just try to simplify the problem yourself first and then scan the answers and see if you spot one of the ones that, that shows up. Okay, and then I'll walk you through these. Okay, so pause me, try out number 9, try out number 10, and then I'll walk you through how to do these. Okay, so number 9 should be B. If you got B, feel free to move on and skip a little bit, go forward to my explanation for number 10. If you didn't get B, I'm just going to show you how to do that one. 2 rad 3 doesn't break down since 3 doesn't break down into any more perfect squares, so that one's just going to come down. Rad 12 you can break down. That's rad 4 times rad 3. Rad 4 comes out of the house as 2 rad 3, and then I add these together. Same radical, means I can add those coefficients in front. 2 plus 2 is 4, and then I bring down the rad 3. So that's where I'm getting B from. Number 10, you should have gotten B as well. Lots of B's today. So again, if you already got B and you don't need to see the explanation, feel free to click forward a little bit and move on through the video. If you did not get B, take a look at how we approach this one. 7 rad 2. Rad 2 doesn't break down. I'm just going to bring that down. Rad 18 does break down. That's rad 9 times rad 2, which is 3 rad 2. Notice there was a subtraction sign between those, so that's the symbol that you're going to have to put down there with the simplified versions. Rad 6, we've seen this earlier today. Rad 3 times rad 2 didn't help me, so I just leave it as minus 2 rad 6. Okay. So now I look for like radicals. I see a rad 2 and a rad 2 in those 2 rads, so I know that these 2 can combine together. 7 minus 3 would be 4, so I get 4 rad 2. But then the minus 2 rad 6 just has to get tagged onto the end, and there's no more combining I can do because the 2 and the 6 don't have the same ending, and rad 6 doesn't break down anymore. So that's where I'm getting B. All right. So number 11, just a quick concept check here as well. Which of these examples can be combined and which ones cannot be combined? Okay. Why don't you take a minute, go through, pause me, and see if you can decide which of those are going to combine together nicely. And if they do combine, figure out what do they combine to? What would the final sum result to? So pause me for a minute, try out those 4, and then I'll put the answers on the lines. Okay. So this one should be can, because they both have a rad 3. And they would combine to 7 rad 3 if you add the 5 and 2 in front. These two do not combine, and they don't even break down, so I can't even try to combine them. So this is just a cannot. Same with the third one. Rad 5 and rad 3 don't break down, and they don't have the same radicand. So this is also a cannot combine. And the last set does combine, because rad 3 and rad 3 have the same ending. If I was to do 1 rad 3 minus 42 rad 3, I would get negative 41 rad 3. So this is a can. All right, last one I want to walk you through is number 12. So you got 5 rad 27 minus 2 rad 3 plus 3 minus 2 rad 2. Okay, take it one step at a time. Treat it as 4 little mini problems. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. Each little piece of the sum and difference is going to be a step in the problem. First thing I look at, rad 27. Can I break it down? It's the first thing you do with any of these addition and subtraction problems, is you try to break down the radical if you can. That's rad 9 times rad 3. So 3 rad 3. Don't forget about your friend the 5 in front. So now in front, I got 5 times 3 would be 15 rad 3. So I'm just going to put a check. Check, I did step 1. I see a subtraction sign. I'm going to bring it down. 2 rad 3. Nothing to combine there, nothing to simplify there. Rad 3 doesn't break down. So I can just bring that down. Draw a little arrow. Check. Plus 3. Just a whole number. There's nothing I can do with that. Plus 3. Check. Step 4. I see subtraction. I'm going to bring subtraction down. 2 rad 2. Rad 2 doesn't break down. Check. Okay, so I checked off all the simplifying steps. Step 2, now I look to see if there's any that have the same ending I can combine together. I see a rad 3. I see a rad 3. So these two can become 13 rad 3 just by subtracting the 15 and the minus 2. This is plus 3, and then this comes down as minus 2 rad 2. Now I want to point out something. This 3 is outside the radical. This 3 is inside the radical. These do not combine together. Do not combine. I'm going to make a note of that. I would suggest that you make note of that as well. They do not combine because 1, 3 is under the rad, and 1 is not. They have to be under the radical if you want to add the coefficients in front. So unfortunately, that's about all we can do with this problem. The only extra thing I'm going to do, you are welcome to leave it here. I don't like to have the whole number just squeezed between the rads. Either put it in front or put it at the end. It really doesn't matter which way you write it. I'm just going to put the 3 at the beginning. So 3 plus 13 rad 3 minus 2 rad 2. Or if you want to put it at the end, you can do that as well. 13 rad 3 minus 2 rad 2 plus 3. Either of those is fine, or honestly, even if you left it here, I'll accept that. I just don't like to see the whole number in the middle myself. Keep the rads together, keep the whole numbers together. Okay, so that'll do it. Okay, the last 2 pages, I'm not going to run through these on the notes because they're really just more practice problems. I have a key to these within the notes, so the rest of your assignment for today is to complete numbers 1 through 9. Practice cubed. Practice, practice, practice. Okay. Same stuff we were doing on the first 2 pages, just some independent practice for you. Do numbers 1 through 9. Check your answers with the key. If you have any questions on those, log into the office hour. We can take a look at those. And you'll get another practice day tomorrow with this as well. Hey, all right. Happy ratting.